Welcome back to the GCP-Mindset channel. Today's topic, from patient to founder, how John Elsner built Skinuvita to bring phototherapy home. Who are you and what is your personal connection to psoriasis? How did this experience become the central motivation for founding Skinuvita?
My name is Jan Elsner. I'm the founder of Skinuvita. It has quite a personal connection. I have psoriasis since my early childhood, chronic inflammation of the skin that can have certain flare-ups, and it wasn't really comfortable having it. And over the years, I did so many therapies and finally discovered something that helped, phototherapy, and it was so frustrating that this treatment was not really accessible to me because it wasn't possible to drive 4 or 5 times a week to a treatment site. I came from a very small village, and I was in touch with so many other patients who had the same problem. And this is where the awareness for the problem emerged. And many years later, when I was working at the University of Bremen, we took a technological approach to solve it. And this is how Skinuvita started as a spin-off from the University of Bremen. And a lot has happened since then.
What exactly is Skinuvita? Please explain in simple terms how you safely transfer the proven light therapy for chronic skin diseases into the patient's own home.
So, with Skinuvita, we have patients with chronic skin diseases such as psoriasis and atopic dermatitis. Those diseases cannot be cured, but there's a very effective therapy. We're talking about phototherapy. It is essentially a treatment of those plaques which are affected with 311 nanometers UVB light. That usually leads to a reduction of the symptoms and is a very mild treatment. However, it has a big downside, and the problem is that you need to do multiple sessions per week, usually 3, 4, 5 sessions per week in a therapy site or a clinic. And for many patients, that's not possible. Imagine you live in a rural area, or if you have a full-time job or kids to take care of, it's very hard to combine this therapy with your day-to-day life. And many other patients therefore need to switch to other medications, which however can lead to significant higher costs and also stronger side effects. And this is essentially the problem that we solve by making phototherapy accessible from home and still medically supervised. For this, we have developed a digital therapy system that consists of 3 components. So first, we have a digital therapy monitor for dermatologists, which allows an easy creation and adaptation of therapy plans. Then we have our app for patients, which guides the patient through the treatment step by step. And finally, we have a smart control module for therapy devices. So we can upgrade those traditional therapy devices and ensure an automatic dosage transfer from the prescribed therapy plan. And with this, we can make the treatment more accessible and enabling more life quality.
How does the interplay between the device and the app work in practice? How do you ensure that treatment with a home device is as safe as in the doctor's office, especially concerning automated dosage transfer?
So the interplay, maybe I can guide you through the process. It all starts with a medical assessment from the dermatologist, where they first of all check if this is the right treatment, and if yes, then they create a therapy plan. It usually consists of a starting dose and then certain parameters how the dose should be increased over time. So depending if there is no skin redness afterwards, or maybe a little skin redness or severe redness, this is very relevant to then decide if the dosage should be increased or maintained, or maybe the therapy should be paused for a few days. So first of all, this therapy plan is created. Then we have our app, which basically always retrieves the current status of the therapy plan, because we are not talking only about the dosage, but also about time intervals when it makes sense to do this treatment. So we don't usually want to have 10 sessions per day, but maybe 1 session every 2 days, so 1 session once per day. So this is all medically programmed, so to say, in our system. The app retrieves this information and then informs the patient. For instance, with a push notification, hey, your session is available. It will last 28 seconds. So our app translates the dosage information in joule per square centimeters to time, so very easy to digest for the patient. And then the patient can do their treatment. It's usually very short in time, 30 seconds, maybe 5 minutes, 6 minutes. The highest possible is 10 minutes in duration. And when the session is done, then we need to wait how the skin reacts. Usually we wait until the next day. there will be another push notification where the patient is informed that they can now report feedback how the skin reacted. For this, we have photos that are done from the app. We also have a certain self-assessment where a patient can say, okay, I had a small reddening of the skin about 3 hours after the radiation. All this can be reported together with a comment. Now, when this was done, we have our algorithm which analyzes this feedback and then determines whether the treatment followed or the reaction followed the plan. Then everything's all right. The next session can be done. Or if there is anything where we need a medical intervention. In this case, we create a ticket for the dermatologist in our system to adapt and check the treatment plan.
2 years ago, we talked extensively about the long waiting times and bureaucracy in the German healthcare sector. Now you have the CE mark and are in the market. Which specific regulatory hurdle was, in retrospect, the biggest challenge on the way to the finished medical product? And what advice would you give founders in this highly regulated area?
Yeah, I think regulation is one of the main challenges if you're a startup in the medical sector. As a big corporate, you might already have revenue streams from other product lines. So if something takes longer, still you can pay your bills. As a startup, this is your first product and you still need to maintain a team. Doing a medical startup is not easy. You need qualifications from different areas, may it be the technical area, business area, regulatory affairs, etc. So you're under a lot of time pressure. And when we look at regulation, there's, let's say, the bright side and the dark side of it. Something I would always support is, and this is the idea, the purpose of regulation is to secure quality, because we're doing things that can help people, but it could also harm if it's not done the right way. This is good. Things need to be checked. But the dark side of regulation, and this is a big problem in Germany and also in Europe, are things that don't really serve this purpose. And this is usually waiting times. This was the worst thing for us. We were totally fine preparing all the technical documentation, the clinical trial files, applications, and so on. But handing everything in and then waiting multiple months, not getting any response, this is a real pain. And it doesn't help anyone else. I mean, if everyone needs to wait 1 year for something to be checked, yeah, it's still the same time effort for the auditor as if everything would be done the same way. You just have this time delay. And I think the MDR was introduced too fast, and the infrastructure wasn't ready for it. And since then, they have this delay, which they need to catch up. And as a startup, this is the real pain. And it's so it's quite annoying because there are projects which are at risk just because they're waiting. It's not because the product isn't good. It's not because they're lazy or they didn't do anything. Everything is great, and they're just waiting. And then on top to this normal waiting times that you have, things can happen. Murphy's Law. An auditor might get sick or might quit their job. There's so many things that can happen. Or they go on holiday, but the person who was supposed to be the deputy is not there anymore. These things then also come on top. And this is what makes it very difficult for a startup to maintain the timeline and to keep the team. Because if everything works well, then you end up in the situation where we are right now. You get the certification, suddenly you're able to offer the solution. After so many years of developing it, you can finally help people with it. But for that, you need the team. And, also people from the very beginning who know about the product, who know everything inside out, who are qualified to do updates, to give technical support, to launch the whole next stage of the company. And this is the essential thing to survive. We call it even the valley of death, to survive the time between handing everything in and actually being able to monetize it, to pay for the running costs, and then of course more. And yeah. Okay, advice for future medical startups. First of all, everyone needs to be aware this is going to be a very long journey. So first do your research and see if the pain is real, which you want to address, and if you have the ambition to really solve it and go through a very long and hard time. If you have done that, this is the best base. Of course, you need a great team with different competences, but these are all I'm stating the obvious. Small things which can make a huge difference is secure your audits in time, like way in advance. It is also okay if you found a notified body and maybe you can only hand it in a few months later. not ideal, but okay. But it is really bad if your product is done and you need to wait a year until someone is ready and has capacity to look at it. And I see so many startups who do this same mistake, who think, okay, my product is almost done. In 2 months, I can hand it in. Now I will look for a notified body. Then they realize the waiting time is 12 months. So this is a small, let's say, hack or something. Do it. And this makes a huge difference. Then when it comes to qualifications, there's so many things you need to do, but you don't need to start from scratch. You don't need to learn everything only by yourself. There's so many options and offers where you can learn from. There are a lot of accelerator programs, for instance, in health tech, incubators, or corporates and research institutes, which are there to also share the experience and who are also maybe willing to invest, or just because of their enthusiasm about the topic would like to help others, gain competences in these fields. So it totally makes sense to reach out and listen to people who've done it before. It can save you so many mistakes you do in the beginning, and often this advice is totally free. And for that, don't be hesitant to ask for help. This can speed things up a lot.
The cost coverage by health insurance funds is a central milestone. In the more recent interviews, you mentioned working with selective contracts. Can you briefly explain how the selective contract model works and why you chose this path for broad reimbursement?
Yeah, so reimbursement is a whole other topic, which is not so easy to figure out. In Europe, we have so many different healthcare systems, centralized healthcare systems, then public healthcare systems, like in Germany, where you don't have one public health insurance, but 90. And even within such a system, multiple reimbursement paths. So figuring that out is not that easy. I can talk about the German market, but this is just one market out of many in Europe. In Germany, at least for such digital health innovations, there are different paths. We have a centralized path for pure digital solutions. It's called DiGA, which is, for instance, currently a lot of apps, for instance, for behavioral therapy, for certain diseases, etc. But there are also other paths. One path we are working with are direct contracts with health insurances. So in Germany, you have like a central, let's say, a pool of solutions that need to be paid once they're in there by all public health insurances, which is the majority of what they cover. It's part of the same list. So you might have 90 public health insurances, but the majority all cover the same. But there are certain extras each insurance can offer, for instance, to stand out among all the other insurances. And for that, they can do direct contracts. In German, we call them Selektivverträge. The benefit of that model is that you can significantly faster get in touch with insurance, and you can draft your offer towards the specific needs and wishes of the insurance. You can learn about your paying customer, in that case, the insurance, the payer, the patient, the user, and learn. And maybe your first pitch is not the best, but you have other insurances. Maybe you don't want to start with the largest one, but with one of the smallest. If you directly go for the national level reimbursement, it's all or nothing, and it's a longer process. And you can still go that path after starting off with certain insurance collaborations. Just don't tell the insurance before, because if you tell them 1 year later, I want it to be covered by all insurances, they lose their competitive advantage, which they gain by covering your solution, in contrast to other insurances. But this is the benefit of these direct insurance contracts. Right now, we in the first quarter this year, we got the certification, and in the second quarter, we got the first deals. We landed 5 public health insurance deals in the second quarter. Now we are in the beginning of the fourth quarter. So right now we have just signed our 7th contract. And you then recognize certain patterns. So in the beginning, it's a lot of time, effort figuring it out. Such a contract is usually 50 pages plus attachments. So you need to learn how it works. But once you figured it out, insurance contract number 7 was by far not the same effort as insurance contract number 1. And if you can receive 7 within 9 months, you can also have 20 if you take 2 years, or maybe even speed it up by growing your team. You realize there are certain paths and certain patterns, certain value points that you can offer, and you can standardize that. And this is the big benefit of these direct contracts. Downside is you're not talking to one, but potentially 90 different insurances, so you need to prioritize. But if you take the big fish, you can cover a significant amount of the market. Not all 90 health insurances have the same amount of patients. It's actually very different. Some have 10 million, others have 10,000. So, but that's easy research. You can figure it out.
The Skinuvita therapy shows high efficacy. How do you measure therapeutic success digitally?
Yeah, so what do we measure? It's very interesting, and this is also the power of digital solutions, that we can get so many endpoints, far more endpoints than normal trials or normal solutions in their post-market time, because they come by nature. So what is very interesting in our case, we work with phototherapy, a therapy that is established since 30 years. We know a lot about the efficacy of the 311 nanometers light. So this is something we can do large trials, but we wouldn't really discover something new. It's already researched a lot. However, what we know in research is that logically you need to do it so to get an effect. And adherence is really important. And this is very interesting because this is something we can measure very well with our solution. I mean, we have the dosage transfer from the app that retrieves it from the therapy plan. We have the lamp that is activated for a certain time. It will be pinged down back to our encrypted server. So we know when the session was done. We know what was the dosage, and we know the time interval between sessions. So we have a lot of information. We know how many sessions each patient did until they ended the therapy plan. And this is information that is really interesting to us. And actually, we still stumble across information which wasn't really on our focus point, but where we realize interesting things. For instance, we did an analysis from our certification trial in which times, like which hour of the day did the patient do their treatment, and then developed a heat map, which are the most popular treatment times, and compared it then to the typical opening hours we have in the therapy centers. And then realized, just because we had this data, more than 90% of sessions are done outside of these opening hours. Like for us, the most popular time to do Skinuvita phototherapy is 8 p.m. There is usually not a physician who is still open at that time. And this is really interesting, and this is what we're measuring. So we have the treatment times. There we can see about therapy accessibility, because if everyone would do the session, I don't know, at 10 a.m., many of them could probably also go to a therapy site, at least those who are professionally kind of flexible. But this was really interesting. Another point is we want to see how large therapy interruptions are. So do we have patients who really follow the treatment plan, or do we have people who do 1-2 sessions, then don't do anything for 2 weeks and then start again, because the efficacy will be very low if you don't really adhere to the protocol. This is another thing. So in our trial, we had one adherence endpoint where it was about, we called it continuous adherence. So during the 7 weeks in which the patients did their treatment, did the patient in each single one of those 7 weeks have at least 2 sessions or more in every week? There was another endpoint. And the interesting thing is that, especially in these adherence areas, there are also a lot of other studies where we could compare it. Of course, different populations. We didn't do an RCT, but it was really interesting to see, because this continuous adherence, in many trials, it was less than 50% of patients who actually did in every week their sessions. In our case, we were, I think, around 80%. So it was really good. Of course, an RCT would give better insights because we have more comparable target groups. But it shows the power of those digital solutions. And it's so easy for us to measure. No doctor or anything needs to put it into any system. Then was the session. No one needs to document it. The system knows it by itself, because it is done in the digital world already.
The company was founded as a spin-off of the University of Bremen with a small team. After 2 successful financing rounds and numerous awards, including the Bremer Founders Award 2024, how has the company culture and the original founding team changed during this rapid growth phase to meet the new demands?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. And we actually had two driving forces. So one thing was the general startup development, which is great to see a project mature. The other thing is we had exciting times. When we started Skinuvita, we had lockdown and we had the pandemic. And then suddenly we had scholarships in a grant in Berlin, but also still at the University of Bremen, people who came from research there. So we started with full remote work. And then which worked in a very small team for us. It was good. We started with 6 people, different expertise from technical design, health sciences, business, etc. And then as the company got more mature and it was also possible to meet more in person, we realized that this physical exchange between people is really important. And around that time, we also decided to move the headquarters to Bremen, because this is the core where the idea emerged, where we have also great partners. I mean, GCP Service, one of them. And yeah, we then set up a hybrid working culture. So we meet in the office. We also have team events and workshops where we do the main part. But also for developers, often it's important that they have focus time in the home office. So we didn't fully cut that. But now we have this hybrid company culture. And then we maintained at this team size of 6, 7 people for quite a long time, because the whole regulatory pathway was there and we had all the skills that was needed. And then after the certification came a really interesting breakpoint, because suddenly you need totally different skills. You need salespeople, you need customer support. We also have therapy devices which are sent to the patient for 3 months. So you need logistics. You also need people to pack the whole thing. Then we have health insurance deals that we want to do. So you want to sell the health insurances, but also you want to have doctors. So a lot of skills that are needed, and you cannot easily expect the back end IT person to do then the sales, the dermatologist, and also they are still busy. I mean, with software, it's not like here it's done, but you want to get user feedback, you want to improve. Maybe you need to do some updates because some technical changes emerged, and that was a point where we needed to grow our team. And this was really interesting. The big benefit for us was that we still had great relations with the university, with the chairs, and we realized that we can get those high-performing students, which are very close to finishing their masters, we can get them in the team and give them something they couldn't get at many other companies, which is really the freedom to shape things, to build up processes, to figure things out and experiment, which is so great in a startup. It's not like this student job where it's like, hey, do this task exactly like this and you're here to support. No, it's a position which is very demanding, but if you're on fire, where you can shape things, discover. And this is what we did. So the team grew a lot, but with a lot of part-time people. We then realized this is really great, and also for a company, very cost effective. I can also tell you that. But when you have a lot of part-time people and a core team that works normally, every working day, you need to ensure the right flow of information, because we have our daily stand-up meetings, which work very easy. When we were in the stage where most of the company worked full-time, everyone knew the majority. Once you have more and more part-time people, you need to ensure that the right information also flows between people. And then the next step was that the more people you have, the more you also need to restrict who actually needs to know what, because it can be so overwhelming. So then we needed to think about structures. So who is actually a department lead? Who will do decisions, which is an interesting shift from an organization where, you have a handful of people and you do decisions together and you discuss everything, towards, hey, this is becoming inefficient because we have so many topics. We now need certain teams, and each team needs a spokesperson or a decision maker, or call it a leader, or we don't want to call it a boss, but still you change a responsible person, and you change the company culture. We are in that. We have, we get very good feedback, but I think also because we do a lot of effort in, talking to the people with feedback conversations. Every 2 weeks we have our sprint retro where we talk about these interpersonal things. But this is a constant challenge, and culture is something you always need to invest in. And I wouldn't say we're masters in that, but our fluctuation is almost zero. So people like to stay with us. People like to grow. So this is a good sign, but I think you can always do better than that.
Phototherapy is an important component in dermatology. often positioned between topical and systemic treatment. Do you see Skinuvita as a purely phototherapy offering in the future, or are you planning an expansion?
If you do a startup, you want to expand and help more people with it. I talked a lot about phototherapy because this was um, such a market gap which we could target. But along the way, which was long, we realized also other problems which we can solve. And we realized that we now gained certain skills which we can use to expand it. We now have, I think, a large skill set in both software development, but also in dermatology. And we now have, I think, more than 180 dermatologists who sign up and want to use our solution. This is also quite a network. So expanding within dermatology makes sense, and especially within those diseases. We have a lot of ideas. I have to see how many I can share now because, it's a long path and what we're developing. But something that is also really relevant is, so phototherapy is for, advanced cases if you have such a disease. But many people who get the first diagnosis might not qualify for phototherapy. It makes sense to start with a topical and try it out if it works. And for the majority of cases, it actually works if you have mild symptoms. But many patients struggle with finding the right way how to deal with this disease on different levels, which has different factors. So one problem is that our dermatologists in Germany, they have so much to do. They don't really have a lot of time to explain this disease. But there's many things you should know. If you have it's basically an autoimmune disease, an inflammation. There's so many things where you can tweak your lifestyle that will or can also have a big impact. For instance, finding the right nutrition for it. But also to deal with stigmatization. Unfortunately, it is an issue that other people, there will be such situations. Other people think it's contagious. They don't want to touch you, or they feel disgusted. It doesn't feel good to not feel comfortable in your own skin. So the psychological element is also really important, and so many other fields. So this is one thing we currently think a lot about, how we can educate more and use our digital infrastructure as a base for patient education. I think this is something really interesting and something we can really well do with the right experts on our side. So this is a very interesting thing. Then another issue we have is because the physicians, they're so full and the waiting times are so long. Like currently it is 3, 4, 5 months just for the first checkup. But if you have such a disease, you have flare-ups, and you might just call the doctor when you already suffer big from it. You don't want to wait another 3 months and have this inflammation spread. So easy and fast skin checks and therapy recommendations is another thing which can be done also in a digital way, especially for those chronic diseases when the diagnosis is already there, but it's now the worst flare-up after 3 years. Maybe you want to talk to the same doctor in a digital way. Hey, can you check at these photos? And here's my structured survey. How bad is it, and what do you recommend? Do I really need like a drug now, or do you recommend certain interventions in my lifestyle? This is another thing, and this is just the beginning. Many other ideas. So our vision is basically to be the central ecosystem that will guide you through the whole process of your disease, from the first diagnose towards different treatments, and also the times between the flare-ups to find the right lifestyle, how to handle with it. We want to assist as much as we can.
You recently voiced plans to expand the concept of home therapy to other time-consuming treatments, such as dialysis or rehabilitation, and filed an international patent application. Which of these extensions has the highest priority right now?
Yeah, it's very interesting because as a startup, you always need to set priorities, and depending what kind of founder you are, you might have a lot of ideas, and your ideas might come faster than the execution can be. So it's really risky to put too many ideas in the same basket and then work on too many things at the same time. So despite all my enthusiasm about all these new things, the reality right now is we just got a certified medical solution for a massive pain point in the market and can help other patients with it. So this is the priority number one right now. Still, as an organization, you should, never stand still and stop innovating. So this is where the next steps come. I think what makes sense for us is for the next steps to stay in dermatology and stay within the diseases we know very well, because we have the competences and the networks and the doctors for it. Still, from the technological side, it is very interesting to see what other time-consuming therapies can be done from home. But these are, like, in medicine is a broad field. You really need to research, you need to understand it, and this is something where it's really great to do research projects and also to talk with partners. This is something we do when we have the availabilities for it. And for us, it's quite a seasonal therapy as well. So we already learned that in the summer months, a lot of clinics and doctors' offices are closed in July and August. This is time where we can invest a lot in research. But in the winter months, like right now, like currently every day we get new therapies prescribed and even more requests from patients. Then we need to deliver the people whom we can help right now. And once we have some capacity, it's about helping other patients with new solutions.
You are a patient yourself and founded Skinuvita out of a deeply personal necessity. What was the single personal moment or piece of patient feedback in the last 2 years that gave you the greatest affirmation that the hard path of a healthcare startup was worthwhile?
So to say, now is the most rewarding time of founding Skinuvita so far, because now we can interact with those people. Before, you know the problem you built, but no one is allowed to use it. I mean, I used it myself, but yeah, then the next step was the clinical trial, but we couldn't talk to the people because it was, from at least from our side, anonymous. It were just numbers. It was great to see those numbers, but still it's abstract. You don't have anyone saying thank you. And now we have those people saying thank you. This is so cool. This helped us. And I found I received like a letter from a patient who said, I just want to say thank you for the treatment. I have psoriasis since a very long time. There was a lot of personal stress as my husband got a life-threatening disease. This stressed me out. I got psoriasis on so many areas and I really suffered from it, but I couldn't do the therapy. I needed to take care of my husband and had my job and so on. And with this therapy now I have the solution to treat it from home. And now after 2 months, the majority of the symptoms are gone. This has given me a significant relief. Thank you so much for that. And it made me so happy because I think for that person, it made quite a difference. And we put so much hard work in it. Like, this is the main factor to provide an extra value, and makes me so happy to see that it's such a motivator. Of course, now it's a lot of work and an exhausting time, but there you see the impact. And I think this is also from a healthcare startup, survive with your motivation until you reach the point where you get the actual feedback from the actual usage. This is very rewarding. And for me, it's I wake up, I have my bed here, and there's my closet. And there I have a PDF, like a paper, an A4 paper, and I can do checkboxes for every new patient we have. And currently, every evening when I go to bed, I make new checkboxes for the new patients. And currently, every evening, I can do checks right now. Like, our therapy season is just starting. In the summer months, we were like, oh, the doctors are closed, we're not getting so many prescriptions. And now it's so rewarding to picture that with every little X I put in there, this is the person who received the therapy, and with a very high likelihood, it will improve their life, at least for the therapy period, but also afterwards, because the symptoms in the majority of cases are gone. And this is so rewarding. I love it. Before, it was more the pain that touched me, like a patient saying, hey, I was bullied, I had these nicknames, it affected my self-confidence, and it gave me also motivation, but it was from the negative standpoint. It's like, I feel empathy, I feel sorry for the person, I wish we could help if we were certified now. Was also motivating me, but now we have this positive thing, like, I had this pain, but now it helps, and this is so rewarding. It's so cool. And this is also, in how many other jobs can I use my patient background to help other people as effective as in something where I'm affected myself? This is, so to say, one of the best jobs I could ever do in terms of bringing an impact to the world. So I love it.
Thanks for watching, and see you next time on the GCP Mindset channel.